Another common shape, maybe the most common and the first one we would learn in geometry as we create the seed of life. The seed of life has 6 circles around one center circle. All of them are the same size. And we see that pattern a lot of different places in nature. We see them in snowflakes, we see them in honeycombs and other places. So what could be causing that? So maybe the way the molecules fit, 6 molecules will fit around, or 6 atoms will fit around an atom of the same size. It could have something to do with it. For example, if you've ever taken a quarter and placed quarters around it, if you use circles that are the same size, which of course all the quarters are the same size generally, 6 of them will fit perfectly and evenly around. So maybe as the water molecules are forming, that principle or that idea could be why it starts to grow in 6-sided shapes. I've often even wondered, are honeycombs really hexagons, or are they just wax and bees have hollowed them out with circles so they can have their honey, as well as they even have babies that are born inside of these little circles. So is it really the hexagonal shape, or is it really a circle? And the wax around the circle is what seems to look like a hexagonal shape. It may have to do with the way they fit together, those circles, sort of the way they fit together when you stack them in a quarter. So it's curious that, our best idea of atoms, like here or here, also seem to have hexagonal designs. I've often started to look at them as stars. Even though it's not a star, I think of a repeating pattern and look at it as a star. So one thing we may have learned is when you draw the vesica Piscis, it's 2 circles of the same length, and the center, each one's touching the center of the other one. There's a special proportion from here to here divided by here to here. The radius also gives us the number phi, or 1.618, and it keeps going, which is the number responsible for helping to form the Fibonacci spiral. We get this number by dividing backwards the Fibonacci numbers. So maybe it's possible that every time we draw the seed of life, we're also drawing something with some of the proportions of phi, the Fibonacci spiral, or the golden ratio. So what we learned to make the seed of life is if we draw a circle, 6 of them will fit around perfectly. And from there we learned you can actually connect the dots and make the most common geometric shapes that are regular, have equal or congruent sides. We can draw a regular triangle, we can draw a rhombus, a trapezoid, a rectangle, and of course a hexagon, the Star of David. So maybe in these 6-sided patterns, because the proportions of phi might be in there, maybe that's one of the reasons they're so common and represent or have balance and some efficiency to them. I don't know. When making different shapes, this is one of the easiest, 6-sided, because you just draw a circle and then use 6 more around. Making a 5-sided star actually takes a little bit more know-how using a compass, as well as 7 or 8. So as far as using a compass, the easiest pattern to make is a hexagon. So it could be why it's coming up often in nature. It's just easy to make when you stick molecules or atoms together. Who knows? So when I go on a walk, I tend to take pictures when I notice. So I wanted to show you some of the flowers and things that I've noticed which have patterns of 6. I mean, we see them in car rims, like we said, and the snowflake. But we see them in flowers all the time. And some of our most beloved flowers, like a tulip. So of course, this is a snowflake. When they're complete, they grow in patterns of 6, and they're apparently every one of them is different. Here's a flower with 3 and 3 and 3, but the main petals have 3 plus 3 or 6. This has 6-sided petals, 3 and 3. And most lilies, I think all lilies have six-sided pattern. Here's another type of lily. The narcissus family, or daffodils, they have patterns of 6 petals. And again, to me, I look at them as little stars of 6. This, I'm not sure if this was mint or what it was exactly, but when you look at the flower buds, they are patterns of 6. And this also has 3 and 3, which makes 6, or you could consider it just 3-sided star. Here's a tiger lily. There are 6 petals, 6-sided star. This is another type of daffodil. And some more lilies. So tulips also, the outer petal, the outermost shape of the petals are 3 and 3. Here's a better example. So this particular type of tulip, it has multiple layers to it. But if you just look at the outer layer, and most tulips that are simple tulips, they'll have layers or patterns of 6. Another lily. Here's another tulip. And so these 3 open first, and then the other 3 will open afterwards and make a 6-sided pattern. So it seems to come up a lot. I'd say the two most common patterns, or really 3, are the 6-sided star, the 5-sided or pentagonal shape, as well as the spiral. So things like a sunflower, a pineapple, pine cones, they all have a spiral in them which contains that same golden ratio number, the number 5. So even though these shapes may not have the actual spiral in it, the actual design of them may contain it. I know the pentagon contains the number 5, but like I mentioned here, when you put 2 circles together, phi is kind of in there. The proportions are in there. So I believe that holds true even when they're flower petals and they're not just circles. So just a little bit of something to look at and think about. Where do you see patterns of 5s and 6s, and how often do you see them? Because I think most of our lives, until we start trying to notice, these patterns and shapes are all around us. We just don't really take the time or don't know how to look. So hopefully this gives you a different perspective when you're out on a walk or in the garden. Flowers and patterns of 6.